Terence Crawford says there's no comparison between his resume and Errol Spence Jr. Will a loss affect his Hall of Fame status? What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red. Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, so there was a pretty explosive interview that Terence Crawford gave, yesterday, the day before yesterday. Let's just say it was released yesterday. I don't know when exactly it was recorded. But in that interview, Terence Crawford had a lot of things to say about Errol Spence Jr., the Hall of Fame, and their resumes. I just want to break that down, give my 1,000 nickels on what Bud had to say for anybody listening.
Like I said, there's no comparison. Like when you compare Errol Spence to Terence Crawford, there was no comparison. Like my career, I'm already going to the Hall of Fame. Like if we retire right now, he's not going to the Hall of Fame.
All right, man. So what did Bud say exactly? Well, he basically said that he feels like, in his mind, there is no comparison between his resume and the resume of Errol Spence Jr. He said that he feels like he is a Hall of Famer even if he retires today. He's definitely going in the Hall of Fame, but if Errol Spence retires today, Errol Spence will not be in the Hall of Fame.
If I was stupid, I probably wouldn't have to feel those recourses or repercussions.
I think that's kind of a ridiculous statement. I think it's kind of taking a jab at Errol Spence. I don't know why he keeps trying to jab at Errol Spence at this point, because it was never Errol Spence like dissing him. It almost seemed like Errol Spence embraced him in a way, trying to, pull him up to his status. Not that Terence Crawford didn't have his own status. He definitely does have his own status. But I think you can see now that Terence Crawford is very, very bitter and angry toward Errol Spence, and that he holds a grudge toward Errol Spence for being more popular than him.
Why are you in so much competition with me? You jealous. I can't help it. I look better than you do. You don't. My dick is bigger than yours. It was cold that night.
And you can't really blame Errol Spence because he's more popular than you. It really has a lot more to do with regions. The regions that both of these guys come from. Errol Spence comes from a really big state, the biggest state within the Union. So you would kind of figure that by default he's going to be more popular. And then when you look at the surrounding states, there are big states surrounding the big state, so he's going to be more popular, and people tend to gravitate to what they're close to, what they have access to.
You went to the bar and you didn't invite me.
Is that my bourbon?
Yeah, I went inside to help myself. You left the door unlocked.
I can call the cops. That's B&E.
B&E?
Yeah.
Okay, you LMO. What's the difference?
What is LMO?
Left me out.
So if you're closer to Errol Spence, you're more than likely going to be rocking with Errol Spence. And if you're closer to Terence Crawford, you're more than likely going to be rocking with Terence Crawford. So, I don't see why there's so much bitterness toward Errol, when it comes to Crawford and him not embracing Errol at all, not embracing the fact that Errol kind of made this fight as big as it was, because at the end of the day, let's just say neither one of those guys had belts and they just were fighting each other for principle. Terence Crawford wouldn't be drawing in any type of a crowd. If neither one of those guys had belts and they were just fighting off principle, they still had their same fan bases, Terence Crawford wouldn't be drawing in any type of a crowd. It would be Errol Spence selling the fight. And that's basically what it was with both of those guys and their status in the boxing world. Errol Spence had 3 belts. Terence Crawford had 1. And when you base everything off the belts, then he should have been more popular than Terence Crawford based off the fact he had those 3 title belts.
It doesn't help them to give you something. You're taking their position. You got to take something. Take it. Don't wait to be given something.
So, I don't understand why Terence Crawford has such bitterness and anger, other than maybe he feels like he should have made more money. Him being the older fighter, maybe he should be more popular because he's the older fighter and he's been around a little bit longer. But, that's not Errol Spence's fault, so I don't understand why he's taking shots at Errol Spence and not just, looking at it from a business standpoint to where Bob Arum didn't push you as hard as PBC pushed Errol Spence. You know, Errol Spence took some chances to where you took less chances in your career. You could have fought other champions by now in your career, but instead of doing that, you decided to take those light touches, and people chewed you up for taking light touches and not fighting champions, and people embraced Errol Spence for fighting champions and beating champions, and that's how he basically built his fan base up. So, you know, I think it's kind of ridiculous. And when you think about the Hall of Fame talk, I actually think that Errol Spence already solidified his Hall of Fame status. Once he won the second title, I think he was headed to the Hall of Fame. When he won the third one, you know, his Hall of Fame status pretty much secured, and it's not going anywhere. And I think Terence Crawford is actually the one who's just now hitting Hall of Fame status. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he was already going to be a Hall of Famer because of what he did at the lower weight classes. And that's the problem, is Terence Crawford has solidified himself as a multiple weight class guy. Errol Spence solidified himself as a single weight class guy. He's trying to move into different weight classes now and do his thing, but he dominated 147 for a long time, so that domination over 147 is going to be the reason he gets into the Hall of Fame. Where Terence Crawford, he took over, you know, the lower weight classes, 135, 140, and he did his thing there. And you could argue that that's the reason he's going to the Hall of Fame, what he did at 135, 140. And I wouldn't argue with that. I would say, yeah, I agree that he did his thing at the lower weight classes, and he would more than likely be going to the Hall of Fame because of that. But you can't say that because Errol Spence hasn't been through multiple weight classes, unifying 3 titles at 147 is not enough to be in the Hall of Fame. That's just ridiculous. And for lack of a better word, it's basically hating on Errol Spence just for being more popular than you.
What are you talking about? I mean, where are your jokes at? You're not making any sense. Just get off my show.
And at the end of the day, if Terence Crawford takes a loss to Errol Spence, is it going to affect his Hall of Fame status? No, but I think if he does take a loss to Errol Spence, it's going to affect his popularity again. People are going to drag him. People are going to bring back up the fact that he hasn't fought anybody at 147 besides Errol Spence and Jeff Horn. You know, those are the 2 biggest names and the 2 champions that he beat. So, you know, I think it goes back once again to popularity, money, and Terence Crawford just being a hater at the end of the day.
He's not going to the Hall of Fame. When it's all said and done, when you look at my fight with Errol Spence and how easy I defeated Errol Spence compared to all these guys that they call him bums, that should tell them something right there. He's not going to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on YouTube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, feature a product or your channel on my channel, feel free to hit my Gmail because it is a flap of cards at gmail.com. And we are...
Now I was high when I made the song, so you gotta get high when they play the song. See them chicks get live and they shake their thongs. Young niggas run lines tryna take them home, and if a nigga hate mine, I'ma break his bone. See them whips outside on crazy chrome. Little mama, don't take me wrong, but my lap is where your face belong. I stay stuck like a 9 with the safety on. Flow hot like allergies, take vacations on. OG, where you hate and hate. You can get a few shots to your apron. Hey, dog, I ain't got a lot of patience. When I see what I want, gotta take it. Right now, I'm just looking at her shake it. Soon she get through, we shaking. OG, spot this click. OG, you ain't fucking with me. It's Young Keys and I rep the Ville. And 100 years later, I'ma rep it still. See, on the underground, they respect the skills. So a nigga like me don't stress a deal when you gon' need a mouthpiece to protect your grip. Elbows get thrown at your head for real. Damn girl, why you trying to stop dancing when I walk up behind ya? Cause a nigga like me might grind ya, leave you alone for a minute, then find ya, grind you again to remind ya. Girl, you're fucking with a big timer, but I ain't baby, I'm in it though. Get paid, break bread with my family though. Take trips to Miami, still see me on date with my granddad. G, Spotless. G, you ain't fucking with me.